Okay, so this should be our last X-Men video before we officially dive into the Onslaught storyline. And honestly, I just can't wait to go ahead and dive into that storyline because I do have some big plans for the channel once we do wrap up our coverage over that particular X-Men event. But before we can officially dive into that storyline and dive into future plans for the channel, we got to sit down and go ahead and cover Excalibur issues number 96, 97, and 98. Now, this is a three-part story arc that's introducing a brand new Hellfire Club. Now, honestly, we still have the original Hellfire Club, but kind of bringing in a new branch of the Hellfire Club into the world of Marvel Comics. Now, before we are able to officially dive into the whole idea of the brand new Hellfire Club, we actually pick up at the school of Charles Xavier, where we pick up with Jean Grey just getting the mail, minding her business. It's early in the morning. But then out of nowhere, she's then confronted by a character we have not seen in a good while, and that would be Alistair Stewart. Now, Alistair Stewart was actually part of the WHO organization, better known as the Weird Happening organization. They would go around the world to investigate weird things happening. Now, here's the thing. That organization was replaced by Black Air. Now, when it comes to our earlier videos of Excalibur, we had learned that Black Air is kind of fishy. And even though they do have the backing of the government, they're still kind of a very fishy organization that's working for the United Kingdom government. But either way, for Alistair, is him asking Jean Grey to help him get a hold of Excalibur. But now we kind of jump over to Shinobi Shaw. Now, this begins the whole process of bringing in a brand new Hellfire Club, but not the one in America. You see, we had learned a long time ago, when it comes to the Hellfire Club, they have different branches across the world. Now, for Shinobi Shaw, he is the son to Sebastian Shaw, but he had replaced his father as the leader of the inner circle for the American branch of the Hellfire Club. Now, for Shinobi, he has been trying his best to keep tabs on the London branch. The problem is that his spies are unable to collect more information for him, which means he needs somebody he can trust to kind of work their way into the inner circle. And so he decides his best option is Brian Braddock. But now we're kind of able to work our way over to Excalibur finally. Now, for Excalibur, we have to remember that there have been some changes. Like, for example, you have Colossus right now on the team. Now, here's the thing, because in one of our earlier videos, we saw Colossus try to beat down on Kitty Pryde's brand new boyfriend, Pete Wisdom. Now, unfortunately, you had Colossus be stopped by the rest of Excalibur, but kind of help him realize that for Kitty Pryde, she had no choice. She had to move on. And so for Colossus, it's kind of like, okay, cool, you know what? I need to move on as well. And so for Colossus, he had joined Excalibur. So you have all three characters right now just hanging out: Colossus, Kitty Pryde, and also Nightcrawler. We're also kind of getting reminded here that there's something going on between Kurt, Nightcrawler, and also his girlfriend, Amanda. Now, before we are officially able to kind of dive into that plot line, you have Megan appear. Now, for Megan, she says, "Hey, Kurt, you have a phone call from Jean Grey." Now, we are kind of able to meet this brand new version of the Hellfire Club, the London branch. Now, there are a few things different about this branch when it comes to the American one. Like, for example, for the American one, you have black and white. Like, those are two colors. You have the Black King, the White King, Black Queen, White Queen, and the list goes on. But for this branch, it's black and red. Now, we also learn here that for the red side of the inner circle, they have somebody secretly working for Black Air. And remember, Black Air have replaced the WHO organization. Black Air is technically working for the United Kingdom government. Now, with all that being said, apparently it does seem like this inner circle has some kind of control over Black Air for their own personal reasons. Now, we also learned that they had a hand in the whole idea of the Dream Nail operation. You see, Dream Nail operation was a military operation being controlled by Black Air. And what Black Air did was they had captured a group of aliens that belongs to a race known as the Uncreated. Now, the Uncreated was this alien race that was going across the universe to wipe out all religions on all different planets across the universe. Now, a small ship of theirs had crashed on Earth, and unfortunately, they were captured by Black Air. Now, when it came to Black Air and what seems to be the inner circle, they were trying to use the Dream Nail operation as a way to create some kind of virus. But unfortunately, that plan right there did not work out thanks to Pete Wisdom. Now, we kind of learn here that for the Red King, he has a lot of hatred towards Pete Wisdom. We don't know why just yet, but as we go through our coverage, we're going to learn more about the Red King and the other members of this inner circle. Now, getting back over to Excalibur, you do have Nightcrawler go ahead and answer the call from Jean Grey. Now, when he does, he realized what Jean Grey was calling about. It's because of Alistair Stewart. He's kind of like, wait, Alistair, where have you been? We thought you left us a long time ago. Like, you've been out of our lives for a good amount of time. Now, this is Alistair kind of acting somewhat paranoid, but at the same time for a good reason. He said, listen, I had no choice. I had to leave the UK behind and head over to, well, America. But now I need y'all help. I need to tell you guys, they're coming after me. Now, for Excalibur, they have no idea what he is talking about. But you did have Alistair tell Nightcrawler it's Black Air. Black Air is coming after me. Now, for Colossus, kind of wondering like, hey, I never met this guy at all, but he does seem a tad bit paranoid. But at the same time, for Kurt and the rest of Excalibur, they kind of don't trust Black Air at all, especially when it comes to Pete Wisdom, who used to work for them and kind of realized they were, well, a tad bit corrupted. But either way, you do have our heroes say, okay, you know what? Let's go ahead, fly over to America, grab Alistair, and bring him back over here to Muir Island. But now we have to jump over to, well, a character known as Scratch. Now, for Scratch, this is the guy who works for the Hellfire Club, but also working for Black Air as well. He's kind of like the liaison for the Hellfire Club when it comes to Black Air. But either way, we see him meeting up with Sebastian Shaw. Now, when it comes to Scratch, it's him retrieving this item from Sebastian. Now, remember, for Sebastian, his main goal at the moment is to regain control of the Hellfire Club that he lost to his son, Shinobi Shaw. But for Sebastian right now, it does seem like he has other things going on across the world. Different types of businesses he needs to handle. And so we see him hand over some kind of box over to Scratch that will help out Scratch, but also his employers as well. But now we're able to kind of transition over to Captain Britain. Now, when we do, it's really more Captain Britain being able to answer the call from Shinobi Shaw. Now, this is Shinobi saying, hey, listen, Brian, I need you to go ahead and like work your way into the inner circle for the Hellfire Club at the London branch. Because for Shinobi, he has been trying his best to gather intel on that branch, but unfortunately, his spies have not been able to collect anything at all. They got telepaths to also block people who might try different ways of eavesdropping into the conversations that inner circle may be having. But on top of that, that branch has been moving money in and out of different accounts that belong to the government. Now for Brian, also Betsy, better known as Psylocke, those two people right there, their father was part of the London branch. He was part of the inner circle. And so with their father being part of the inner circle, Brian has the right to go ahead and request to become part of the inner circle because of his father, to become a new member of the inner circle. And so for Shinobi, he's all like, Brian, I need you to go ahead and work your way into it. But here is another reason why. And that would be because of the character known as Mountjoy. Now, Mountjoy was this character from Bishop's future who has the ability to merge with other people's bodies. Now, it gets even creepier because once he does that, he's then able to use their powers and their bodies for his own personal needs. But at the same time, he's also kind of absorbing their bodies into his own. So sooner or later, that host he has will no longer be a use for him, but he didn't just move on to somebody else's body. But apparently for Mountjoy, who is this crazy killer, he might be part of the inner circle as well. And so for Brian, he's kind of like, wait, if they have a killer in their inner circle, he has to go. But at the same time, for Brian, he has to stop the entire inner circle and all their plans. Now, to close on the first chapter of the storyline, you do have Excalibur on their way back home with Alistair. The problem is that on their way back home, they are then quickly attacked by different helicopters that, of course, belongs to Black Air. And so now for our heroes, really more Nightcrawler and Megan, they have to work together to protect their aircraft, but to also protect Alistair as well. And so as we dive into the next chapter, we're really picking up with Nightcrawler and Megan just working together as a team, as a way to hopefully find a way to get rid of all these different helicopters that's currently trying to shoot them out of the sky. And matter of fact, when it comes to issue number 97, for the first 6 or 7 pages, it's just that. It's the two of them trying to work together, but it's also us seeing Megan just cutting loose, trying to be more aggressive because she realized that she's been soft for too long, kind of like a pushover. So now it's time for her to kind of have a backbone. And you have her being able to scare a few of these pilots and have them go ahead and just jump out of their helicopters because they don't want to deal with her and the possibility of being severely injured. But while you have that going on, you have Kitty Pryde and also Wolfbane go ahead and drop off Brian over to the London branch for the Hellfire Club. Like I said earlier, for Brian Braddock, it should be somewhat easy for him to join this branch because his father was part of the inner circle. Now, for the two ladies, they're kind of like, listen, this kind of feels like a setup right now because you cannot trust Shinobi Shaw. And technically, they are right because Shinobi Shaw has been an enemy of the X-Men and all the different X families as well. But for Brian, he's kind of like, there's a killer out there known as Mountjoy, and he's out there killing people. He is somebody we have to officially stop. But either way, you do have Brian arrive at the Hellfire Club. Now, the saddest part of the storyline for me personally would have to be Douglock. And let me explain. You see, for Douglock, he is a Phalanx. You see, in the storyline called the Phalanx Covenant, there was this character known as Cameron Hodge. Now, for Cameron Hodge, he had used a techno-organic virus as a way to create a brand new race better known as the Phalanx. Now, when it came to Phalanx, they were able to absorb technology and also humans, but not mutants. And the reason why? Because mutant genes did not allow them to absorb mutants. And so when it came to the Phalanx, they had absorbed the dead bodies of Cypher and also Warlock, two people who were part of the New Mutant team of the X-Men. Now, here's the thing, because that led into the creation of Douglock. You see, for Cypher, he was a mutant, and even though he was technically dead, because of his dead mutant genes, it kind of blocked Douglock from being part of the hive mind and break away. And so ever since then, you had Douglock trying his best to understand this world that he's now part of. Even though technically he does look like Cypher, he's not Cypher at all. Now, for a brief moment, we do jump over to the character Scratch, who works for Black Air, but also works for the London branch of the Hellfire Club. Now, we see Scratch going to this special door. Now, this door becomes very important for later chapters when it comes to Excalibur, but also for the beginning parts of the Onslaught storyline as well. Now, as we transition back over to Brian, is right now Brian just walking into the main room for the inner circle. Now, when he does, it's really more Brian saying like, hey, my name is Brian. My father was the Black Bishop, and I kind of feel like I have the right to go ahead and replace him. Now, for Brian, it's also him discovering that there's no white side to the Hellfire Club. There's a red side, but not a right side. Now, here's the thing, because for the red bishop of this inner circle, he kind of feels like it's not evenly balanced right now between the black and the red. And so for him, he's also kind of saying that the red should go ahead and officially take over the entire inner circle and get rid of the black side. Now, you do have the red bishop try to challenge Brian, saying like, hey, if I beat you, you're then not able to join the inner circle. Now, here's the thing, because this guy had no idea that Brian has powers. And so you have Brian being able to easily defeat the red bishop, but also getting his spot inside the inner circle for the Hellfire Club. Now, I kind of want to jump back over to Alistair Stewart. Here's the reason why, because for Alistair, is him now explaining more about how the WHO organization was replaced by Black Air. Because for Alistair, he was part of the WHO organization, but he kind of stepped away. And the reason why? To take care of the Warpies. Now, I'm not going to sit down and explain who they are. Just know they were very important a while ago in Excalibur comics. Now, for the Warpies, though, they were taken away by Black Air. But while you had Alistair being busy with them, he had no idea that politics were changing in his home country, to the point where you had the people in charge of the country begin to vote out the WHO organization, but vote in the Black Air organization. Now, for Black Air, originally, their main goal was to just protect the country. But then over time, they began to find all these different types of weapons, artifacts. And so for the country, they felt like Black Air should go ahead and replace the WHO organization, which they did. But we also kind of find out that Black Air was bought into the country thanks to the Hellfire Club, the London branch. And here's the reason why. You see, for the Hellfire Club, this branch, they used to be part of the ruling class. They used to rule over this country. The problem is that over time, they lost that role. And so their main goal is to use Black Air as a way to help take over the different parts they need for the country to belong to them once again, to become the ruling class. But the thing is, they want to hide behind the scenes, meaning that for the government, they may believe they're in charge, but in reality, they're not in charge. It will be the Hellfire Club. And the thing is, they'll never know that technically they're not in charge of their own country. The Hellfire Club will know, but the rest of the government will not know at all. And so for Excalibur, they realize they have a brand new situation they have to handle. But while you have that conversation going on, well, outside Muir Island, we pick up with Douglock. And this is why I say this is such a sad moment. Because for Douglock, he was now beginning to feel like a tad bit more human. But the problem is, while he's outside, this aircraft flies by. It shoots a harpoon right through the chest of Douglock to grab him and drag him away. Just like that, Black Air was able to grab Douglock for their own personal gain. Now, when it comes to the last chapter of this storyline, really, most of the pages of this chapter is currently being used as a way to show us that, yes, is Excalibur just trying their best to figure out what happened to Douglock? Now, at first, it's our heroes discovering that, yes, he was taken away. He was kidnapped by the forces of Black Air. Now, this right here, it ticks off Nightcrawler a lot because he just lost another team member. Because for Excalibur, he is their leader. He's trying his best to protect every single member of this team. And to find out one of your own just got kidnapped off your own base, just like that, is completely horrible. Now, for Moira McTaggart, she's also sad as well because She just heard Douglock kind of realize what it means to be like a human being. It's him kind of figuring things out. And now it seems like he might lose all that progress he made in the short period of time that he was with Excalibur. But for Kurt, he's kind of like, hey, Pete, wisdom, you used to work for Black Air. Where in the world could they possibly take Douglock to? Now for Pete, he has an idea. There's one place to take all their new things over to get processed at. And so this kind of leads to us seeing Excalibur go over to this facility that belongs to Black Air. Really, most of the pages of this book is really more of our heroes just attacking this facility, and you have everyone just cutting loose. Now, the only person who's not there is Captain Britain, because he's still with the Hellfire Club for a completely different reason. But you do have our heroes go ahead and attack this facility. Now, once they are done, they kind of realize that Douglock is not there at all, kind of leaving our heroes wondering where in the world could Douglock possibly be at. But getting over to Captain Britain, we still see him with the Hellfire Club and kind of moving into his own room at the actual club. Now, while he is there, he's then confronted by the scribe. Now, the scribe kind of tells Captain Britain like, hey, listen, I need your help. And the reason why, because for the Hellfire Club, they got some big plans coming for London, then the rest of the country, and then the rest of the world. And I need your help to actually stop them. But it's also her saying that she knows that Brian is Captain Britain, that he is a superhero. Now, with all that being said, it's also her saying like, you need to watch out for the new Red Queen, because she is a magician. Now, with all that being said, we did see some kind of small explosion happen right in the middle of the city of London. But to go ahead and close on today's video, we do pick up with Douglock in this dark place. And we see them right now just breaking him apart. And so, like I said, this is such a sad moment, because for Douglock, he worked so hard to become an actual human, or to feel like he was human at least. But now it seems like everything is slowly being taken away from him. But this is where we're going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.